Are you navigating a life change or perhaps even a crisis? How do we have strategies in order to face those effectively and get through them and flourish? That's the topic that we're going to be addressing today on Flourishment. I'm your host, Tina Yeager, and today I have a special guest and a friend with me on the show. Her name is Dr. Evelyn Taylor. She has 30 years of experience in women's ministry. She's also a theology professor, a Christian speaker that's sought after, and she's an author. She's going to talk a little bit about the new book that has just launched recently. And she's here to talk about those life transitions, which is the focus of her research for this book. Welcome, Dr. Taylor. Evelyn, if I may call you that, since you're my friend. I am so glad to have you on Flourishment today.
And I'm so glad to be here today.
Dr. Taylor, I would like for you to address why you see the issue of facing changes, transitions in our life's seasons as something that is very important to all women.
It is something that we all experience. I mean, let's face it, life is about changes. That's the one thing we do know for sure, that things will change. And life is kind of like the seasons of the year. The seasons of the year, they change. They always will. Nothing we can do to stop that. And in life, we go through changes. And some of them are not easy changes. They are hard seasons that we enter. And I believe that if we can get some tools and some understanding of what is going on and just be able to embrace the change, then that helps us navigate those difficult seasons.
Does it matter if the change is a good change or a bad change? You mentioned that sometimes those changes are hard, but what if we're experiencing what's called eustress, which is good stress? Is it still just as important to have strategies to navigate that?
I believe so, because any season, whether good or not so good, it requires some transitioning for us to move sometimes outside of what we've always done, which was our area of comfort. And we have to move outside of that comfort zone. And even in those good changes, which should be exciting and energizing, and we should be happy about it. But there are things that we have to do in order to transition well. And I say that because when I got married, and it certainly was something that I had longed for, something that I had prayed about and desired from the Lord, and the Lord blessed me with a wonderful husband. But when we went into marriage, both of us went in with our own ideas, our own backgrounds. We were in our early 30s at the time, so we had lived as adults on our own. And so there was a lot of shifting that had to take place. And while that was a good change, it did require some navigating, and to have some tools to do that with are helpful. And they were helpful to us, and we were able to do that. But even in those good seasons, it does require some navigating to take place.
Even in the healing process as a therapist, I can recognize that it's very hard for people to change. You have to get to a certain point of having so much trauma, so much pain, so much dysfunction that the prospect of changing is not worse than the problems that you're facing. So that is a really difficult thing for people to change, even when it's in their best interests to do that change. So let's talk about some changes that we don't look forward to and some specific things that we need to know to go through those. First, let's talk about if you have a change in your household, like with a divorce, for example. What are some tools that we need to go through that kind of a drastic, painful change?
One of the ladies who I interviewed for my new book, In and Out of Season, that was her story. And one of the things that she shared with me is that that is a very disappointing thing when you have to go through a divorce. I had never been through a divorce, but she did share with me that it is very disappointing and it can be devastating. But I know one of the things that she did, and I think would be helpful to anyone, is that she used that time as a time of evaluation of herself and just how she could work on herself and what what she needed for herself in order to be able to navigate that. And it is in those difficult seasons where I believe that we learn so much about ourselves, because many times we do take the time to look at ourselves and see where we are, what we could have done differently, and where we're headed. And we do learn a lot about ourselves in those seasons. And not only do we learn about ourselves, but we grow a lot in those seasons as well. So changing in seasons, even through something as traumatic as a divorce, can be an opportunity for growth, for the person to rediscover who they are, who they want to be, or who they can become as a result of that experience. And they grow. And I always tell people, don't be afraid to grow, because who knows, you might like the person that you grow into.
Oh, I love that so much. Let's talk about some other household changes, like your children leaving your home, which you may not even be aware will be possibly even traumatic until it happens.
That's true. And some parents, that is a great challenge for them. Personally, I was excited about my children leaving home, not because I wanted them to go, but because I felt like they were ready. And also, I felt like it was an opportunity for us as parents to see the fruit of our labor, how well we did in parenting them, how well we prepared them. So I was kind of excited about that. My husband, on the other hand, was not excited. He wanted to hold on to them as long as he could. And sometimes when parents feel that way, it can be traumatic having your children leave home when you want to hold on to them. But even in that, there's an opportunity there for parents to perhaps rediscover some passions that they gave up to raise their children, or rediscover something that where they wanted to go, travel, or maybe take on a new hobby, or something new they wanted to do, and they pushed it to the side, because that's what we do when we're raising kids. We put most of what we want to do in the background, and it's all about the kids. But this is an opportunity to bring those things back to the forefront, those things that you pushed to the background. So it's a good time for parents, I believe. And even though it may be an adjustment, but it can be a good adjustment. And there are things that we can do and see the positive in that. So it doesn't always have to be a negative experience. And when we talk about transition and through change, and any change that we look at, there may be some good in it as well. Now, I know it probably is a lot harder when you maybe have a trauma or lost a loved one or something of that nature. But when it's something like your children leaving home, it's sad because you want them there. You want to know that they're safe. You want to know that they're making good decisions, and you won't see them every day when they leave. So that can be sad, but it can also be an opportunity for your child to grow, and an opportunity for you as parents to grow and to do something that maybe you've had to put on hold for a while.
Let's zero in on something you just mentioned, and that is the change of losing someone that's in your household, whether it's a child or a spouse or a parent that was living with you. Those are very difficult losses and changes to face. Do you have any specific advice for people who are going through that season of change?
Those are very difficult times for people to face, and I had that experience when my husband went to heaven 6 years ago, and it was very difficult. But even in that, I what I did, and I encourage people to do, is to embrace that process, because even grief is a normal part of life, and everyone has had that experience or will have that experience of grief and losing someone or something that they love. And I heard somebody say once, I don't remember where, or the only way you cannot experience grief is the way it goes, is to never love someone. And the alternative is to never love. So we were created by God to love. So we love people, and when we lose them, we grieve that loss. So grief is a normal part of life. Embrace that process when you're there, and just acknowledge where you are and what you're feeling, and don't compare your journey to other people, because everybody's journey is different, and the way we grieve is unique to us. I would look at myself after so many weeks or months, and I would think, wow, I should be further along by now. But then I had to realize that my journey was my journey, and I couldn't compare myself to my friends who were widowed, or our neighbors who I knew who were widowed, but it was about me and what I needed in that moment. And to be able to embrace it and acknowledge this is where you are, this is what you're feeling, and then embrace that process. No matter how long it took, you want to embrace it and just move through it. And the key is to keep moving through it. Sometimes people do get stuck, and I know Tina is a counselor. You could probably speak more to that, but people sometimes do get stuck in that process, and the key is to keep moving. It doesn't have to be a fast move. It doesn't have to be at anybody else's pace, but the key is to keep moving. So learn to celebrate those steps that you're taking moving forward. They may seem like small steps, but celebrate them as you move forward, because each step forward is a significant step toward your journey of healing. And that's important that you celebrate each one.
The unique journey that you've been on, I was just wondering if that might have been part of your inspiration to help other people on that journey.
Definitely. When I pitched this book idea, I was 8 months a widow. I was at a writers conference and I pitched it to an editor there, acquisition editor. And she said, "Oh, that's a great idea. And I love that idea." She said, "But you're going to learn so much more as time go on." And boy, was she right. I've learned so much more over the years. But one of the things that I do know for sure is that sometimes when you're in a season, we tend to feel like we're going to be there forever. And our identity is so defined by who we are and what we do at that moment. And then when the season changes, then there's that challenge of who am I in this new season? What do I do now? And that's where I was. I had been married for 27 years. The last 10 years of my husband's life, I was his caregiver. We spent so much time together, and it was hard to identify where he started, where I began. Our lives were so connected. And when he went to heaven, I felt lost. I felt empty. I was like, what am I supposed to do now? I lost my husband. I lost my job. I lost the thing that got me out of bed in the morning. So where do I go from this point? And what I had to learn was that even though I was feeling empty and I was feeling that my purpose had been taken away, that was not the truth, because I knew what God has said about me. So I had to align my emotions with what I knew to be true. And that was what God has said. And that's kind of helped me to walk through that journey, understanding what was truth and what was not truth. And it was not easy. I don't want to lead anybody to believe that it was easy, because it was not. It was a constant challenge to be able to walk through it day by day, just understanding this is where you are now, but this is not where you will always be. This is where you are now, but this is not what God said. This is not who He said you are. You will be able to come through this. And as I did that day by day, and surrounding myself with people who good support systems, friends, family, people from my church and support groups. And I did see a grief counselor as well. But all these people were a part of my village, the ones who helped me navigate that journey. And the same for anyone who may be experiencing a difficult loss or feeling like they're in a season where they will not be able to come from. You can. And there are people who God has specifically designed to help you, to encourage you and to be with you, to walk you through that. And reach out to those people. Don't be afraid to reach out to them and to connect with them, because they are a part of your village and they also can be a part of your journey.
Dr. Taylor, how can people reach out to you and stay connected with you and get a copy of In and Out of Season so that can be part of their process of helping them go through the journey that they're on today?
The book is available on Amazon and most places where books are sold. In and Out of Season, Thriving in Life's Transitions. My website is evelynjtaylor.org. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, X, and it's Evelyn J. Taylor. On Instagram and X is Evelyn J. Taylor. My Facebook page is Dr. Evelyn Johnson Taylor, and I'm available through any of those platforms, social media, my website. You can reach me. And as I said, the book is available via Amazon.
I hope that all of you who have joined us for this broadcast today feel equipped, inspired, and encouraged if you are facing a challenging season, a crisis, or a change. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant.